Thank you for joining me on my masterclass. Now, today I'm going to be taking a question from Ahmed. Ahmed is from Egypt, and Ahmed wants to know what are those assets that will make someone lifelong rich. Now, I'm actually quoting him. He says, what are those assets that will make, I think it means a person lifelong rich, but he said someone. So, what are those assets that will make a person lifelong rich? Now, here's the thing, Ahmed, and all those people who are watching me. First and foremost, we need to understand what an asset is, because a lot of people have a very, very wrong idea about what assets are. They have something like maybe a 19th century idea of what assets are. Now, words are fluid, even the English language, because the English language, it's a fairly recent language. I think it came about just around the time of the death of Christ. And so it's in flux. It's always constantly changing. So the meaning of the word asset has changed somewhat a bit. Now, an asset used to be just anything that had value. But then it's changed right now. An asset is anything that adds value to you and does not subtract value from you. That's an asset. So an asset is not essentially just having something that, maybe you can sell. Sometimes even some things that you can sell are not assets. I'll give you a very good example. I used to have a Mercedes, I think it was a 450, I've forgotten what they call it now, 450 GLE, something like that, yeah, 4MATIC. I used to have that Mercedes, and then it was consuming so much money. After I got to over 100,000 miles, it was consuming so much money. We had to take it to the Mercedes store at the Walnut Creek, and then they would charge ridiculous amounts of money. They weren't cheating us, but it was just what it was. And so the money I was spending on that car was actually not worth what the car was, what was worth. The value of the car was far outstripped by what it was costing me to maintain that car. So eventually, that car became a liability to me. So even though the car by itself, in the old parlance of the word asset, was an asset, in that it had value, I could sell it and get some value. But then keeping it became a liability to me. So what I ended up doing is I ended up giving it out to somebody in 2018. Now, having said that, you have to understand, not everything that you consider an asset is an asset. If something has value and it's taking money, too much money from you to maintain, and it's taking more money to maintain than the money that is bringing in, it's a liability. Now, what are assets that can give you lifetime income? Now, the very first one will be a business. Now, you got to understand, a business is different from an investment. I'm going to go into investments later on. A business is something that you have to manage. You have to manage a business. So, for instance, if you have a stall in a market, a street market, that is a business. If you have a pharmaceutical firm, that is a business. If you are an architect and you're able to employ a number of architects and then, you get business regularly, that is a business. So a business requires management. A business requires management. So Apple is a business. Now, if I buy shares in Apple, that is an investment. So that's not a business for me. So investments require vigilance. So I've got to be vigilant to see how much the shares of Apple are. So my shares are not going down. Should I sell? Should I keep? So that's the basic difference between a business and an investment. So the very first asset that you want to get is a business. So get into a business, and it doesn't have to be a big business. It could be a small business. You can buy and sell grains. Like you live in Egypt. I know in Egypt, grains are a big thing. Also, water is a very big thing because, Egypt is a nation that is water, deprived. They've got a huge water shortage. So you can actually do that. Or, you can also just go into other forms of businesses whereby you have maybe a car and then use it for Uber. That is a business. But then the very first asset that you want is a business. A business is an asset. Now, the next thing you want to go into stocks. Stocks are investments. So you want to go into stocks. Now, stocks are a very good way to go, especially if you buy the right stocks. If you buy tech stocks, because tech stocks tend to be very capital light, and so they're very resilient during recessions. And in every lifetime, you're going to have a recession. So in the last 100 years, we've had about 28 recessions. And so stocks are a very good option. And then the next thing you want to talk about are bonds. So bonds, you want to buy treasury bonds, you want to buy bonds that governments are offering. Now, bonds are very good because you can actually have safety in bonds. You can plan for bonds because you know how much they're going to bring in. Because when you buy the bonds, you can actually get accurate information about what they're going to be paying you by way of yield, every 3 months, every 6 months. And it's so easy to even buy US government bonds. You can actually go on their website and then buy bonds. But even if you don't go on the website, maybe you go through an agent, you go through a brokerage firm, bonds are a very good way to go. They are assets. And so I mean, it's very rare to see people losing money from assets, from bonds rather. You might not make as much money as you make from other assets, but then it's a good way to make money. And you can keep them, they just roll over, and then in 10 years, they're going to be worth a lot of money. And another way you can make money are mutual funds. So what are mutual funds? So you got mutual funds, you got companies, and then they have a portfolio of investments, and then you buy into the fund, and then at the end of the year, depending on the CGPA, the compound annual CAGP, the compound annual growth, of the stocks that they have in those mutual funds, you get a percentage. Or, it might be index funds. So it can be the S&P 500, it could be the 14100, it could be the Vanguard Russell, whatever it is. So mutual funds are a good way to go. They are assets. Yes, in some rare occasions, they could become liabilities, but for the most part, they are assets. And then another way that you can go with real estate. Real estate is very good because, it's, for the most part, it's stable. It could become a liability if you buy at the top of the market and then the market crashes. But if you time the market right, real estate are assets that can serve you very well, especially now that, the way to make money from real estate has been democratized. So you can Airbnb your property, you can put it for short let, or you can put it for just regular let, or you can just live in it and then it appreciates. And you do not have to be a US citizen to invest in the US real estate market. Although, you probably need to be one to invest in the Canadian real estate market. But real estate is an asset that is very good to go. Now, another way you can go, commodities. Now, commodities, what are commodities? Commodities are, if you look at the futures market, so you talk about gold, you talk about silver, you talk about platinum. There are other commodities like wheat, like oil, like other kinds of grain. I don't like those kinds of commodities because, the prices fluctuate a lot. And then also, they are not things that have eternal value. Like grains, they are perishable. So after probably a little while, they lose their value except you sell them. Oil, the same thing similarly with oil. We don't know the future of oil, especially with electric cars coming into stream. But then if you have gold, if you have platinum, if you have silver, these are commodities that hold their value. Gold from the time of Christ is still very valuable today. In fact, maybe even more so with the historical value as well as the intrinsic value. So commodities are very, very good assets to have. I like commodities a lot. And nowadays, you don't even have to buy the actual metal. You don't have to buy gold. You don't have to buy platinum. You don't have to buy silver. You can buy into an ETF. An ETF is an exchange-traded fund. So it's just like you have gold, yes, but they keep it in a vault for you, and then they give you a certificate. And that certificate certifies the amount, the quantum of gold that you have. So it's a very good way to go, I encourage people to do that. Now, another thing that you can do, which is an asset, is this. You can convert your money from, like currencies that are suffering from heavy devaluation, and then put it in stable currencies. So for instance, in a country like Zimbabwe is having hyperinflation. We speak the Zimbabwean dollar. In a country like Venezuela, they are also having the same thing with the Venezuela Bolivar. So if you're in those countries, as soon as you get your money, to turn your money from assets, from liabilities to assets, you quickly change the money as soon as it touches your hand into stable currencies. So for instance, if you are in Venezuela and you earn 10,000 Bolivar, look, if you hold 10,000 Bolivar, and I know for a fact because these are areas I've visited, if you hold 10,000 Bolivar in Venezuela, by next week, what $10,000 Bolivar could buy this week, it can't buy it next week. So if you change that money to dollars, I know Venezuela, what happens is that what that money could buy in dollars actually increases in value. So you can actually make your money assets like that. So you see, I've given you assets that you can have that are going to give you lifelong income. And if you strictly, follow these assets that you have, because everybody should have at least, 4 or 5 of these asset classes that I've just mentioned, you're not going to go wrong. There are other assets that I could mention, but these assets, they come with risk. They come with a lot of risk. So because of the risk factor, I'm not going to talk about like maybe crypto. Crypto could be an asset. It's been an asset for me. I've always made money from crypto. But then it could be a liability for you because the price fluctuates a lot. That's one thing we know about crypto. And then there are other things that we also consider assets that are also very, very risky. Very, very risky. So maybe we don't want to go into all of those. But if you stick with this asset I've given you, Ahmed from Egypt, I'm telling you, you can get lifelong income. Thank you for watching, guys. And if you have any question after watching this, put it in the comment section of this video. Now, you got to remember, I do not have a WhatsApp forum, a Telegram channel, or a Gmail email address. Scammers have seen that my videos tend to go viral, so they've created a number of fake YouTube profiles, and then they're going to approach you in the comment sections of my videos with all kinds of offers. I never do that. That's not me. Even though they have my image, they are scammers, they're spammers. Now, this is Apostle of Prosperity saying, God bless you.
Reno travels all around the world. I hope you get inspired about what you see. Apostle of greatness, Reno is a master. Only one man against the whole world in large. Fighting with the monsters, poverty I can't stand. That's why Reno is